Today's podcast is brought to you by the StHealthy Hunter Hunt Harvest Health swag. Yes, folks, we finally have our own clothing line. Well, I wouldn't really call it a clothing line. We have t-shirts and hats.
It's not a clothing line. It's a shirt and it's a hat. And pretty soon there'll be a couple more shirts, but that's about it.
Well, it's a fashion. It's all about fashion with you hunters. You know, you got to have the right hat and the right shirt on, or else those animals, they just don't come running towards you. If you have the StHealthy Hunter hat on with the Hunt Harvest Health shirt, you'll be styling out there in the hills. Right, babe?
I guess.
Yeah, you will be.
Okay.
If any of you know StHealthy Hunter and his prowess out there in the mountains, when he has his own logoed shirt on, let me tell you, the elk are going to get huge out there. So don't get too jealous. If you have your StHealthy Hunter shirt on, those big animals might find you too.
Okay, this is getting ridiculous.
Okay, so go to huntharvesthealth.com/swag to see all the designs that we have for both men and women. You can also get a promo code if you sign up for our StHealthy Hunter newsletter. You can find plenty of places to do that on the website and get a little bit of a discount.
Just to kind of explain it. So you order now. It's going to be a little bit before they come in. We haven't actually got these shirts in, but they'll be coming in here in, I think, a couple weeks. So
yeah, we call this a pre-sale. So we're getting our orders in, and once we get ours, you guys will be getting yours. It just helps us to see, you know, how the orders move, what sizes we need to stock in the future.
Yeah, we're totally new at this. I have no idea, like, how many people are in a certain size large. Yeah. So we're doing the pre-sale to kind of figure out how many XLs, mediums we got to get. Yeah. It's, never thought we'd be tackling stuff in clothing, but
so if you already purchased some, don't think we're ignoring you and not sending your swag to you. It will be coming to you as soon as we can get it here, get it in bags, and get it off. So international, I've had a lot of international requests, and I'm still working on that. So if you're international and you want some swag,
geez, where did we get one
personal message us on Instagram or email us at lampers@stealthyhunter.com and tell me where you live, and I'll find out how much it'll cost.
The last one we got, some guy was asking, was he from
Australia?
No, there was another one.
Canada?
Not Canada.
Is there another place?
There was another one that was way somewhere. I don't know.
Ukraine?
It's like Tasmania or something.
Oh, Tasmania. Well, Tasmania's in Australia. It's part of Australia. Yeah, so see, Mr. Tasmania, I won't say your name on here, but you got a shout out.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
That sounds awesome. I've heard about Tasmania, and I've seen it in movies, and it looks like a beautiful island to live on. So anyways, huntharvesthealth.com/swag and get your fashion on.
Mm-hmm. Jeez. In today's podcast, we are going to be talking to three guys who I met one of the guys, and it was in a trade hunt, I think, about a year ago. And then from that relationship, met these other guys, got to talk to them up at the Northwest Mountain Challenge and shoot with them for the day. And I knew they had drawn a unit down in Nevada where I had drawn, so I was pretty excited to kind of meet up with them, and we all met out in, now where was it, more North Bend, or is it close to Issaquah, Washington, and sat down and got to talk about the whole hunt, which is kind of what I wanted to do this time of year. If I'm not telling stories, which I'd rather not tell my stories, I'd rather hear from other people's stories. But I think there's a lot of insight listening to these guys, and all the struggles they went through and what they learned. They've got experience, but not a ton of it, and so they're still learning, and they know that, and it's pretty cool to watch guys go into a state like Nevada and hit all those blocks and those it's not easy. No matter where you are, it's not easy bow hunting for mule deer. And Jeff Lusk, Paul Hallerr, and Eric Forslin were kind enough to sit down with me, and we just go through everything from start to finish on drawing the tag and what happened in the end. So
All right. Well, I know you're not going to share your story, which everybody's going to be super disappointed about right now. But don't worry, folks. It'll be showing up at some point here.
I'll talk about it eventually, I guess.
You can find this podcast show notes at huntharvesthealth.com/podcast/huntwild.
Howdy, folks. Today we are going to be talking with some fellas that had a little hunt going on down in Nevada at the same time that I was down there. We got Jeff Lusk, Paul Hallerr, Eric Forslin, and myself. So we're going to just kind of do a little recap. I'm pretty excited to hear this story. I haven't heard the entire story yet, so I wanted to get you guys on here and just kind of talk about it, go through it, and see all the lessons learned and all the hardships you guys had. So this is one of those things that I've been looking forward to doing since we started this podcast, is talk to hunters. We've done a lot of podcasts with health issues and training and prep and all that kind of stuff. And man, we're in hunting season now, so finally get to sit down with guys like you and just talk hunting stories. So let's start over there, Jeff. Let's give everybody just kind of a rundown of who you are.
Well, I'm Jeff Lusk, born and raised in Washington. Didn't grow up hunting, grew up fishing a lot. Nobody in my family did any hunting pretty much at all. So by the time I could beg the neighbor to take me down to the sportsman club to get my hunting license, that's what I did. I was 10 years old. And as soon as I could drive, I bought a dog, started bird hunting a lot, traveling, doing as much fishing as I could, and soaking it all in, and just kind of evolved from there. Bought a bow, started bow hunting. Then eventually you just kind of want more and more, so you crave the backcountry hunt if that's what you want, or maybe it's sitting in a tree stand for 12 hours, which I absolutely hate, but I'll do because it's a mental game, and I think that makes us all better too. But it's kind of led me here to these guys right here. We're all kind of on the same path. We all kind of have the same mindset. We're all pretty much in the same position, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm Paul Hallerr, born and raised here in Washington, live in Cleveland, and pretty much the same what Jeff said. I wouldn't say grew up hunting, but I followed my dad and my older brother around quite a bit, and then by the time I was, I think, 13, 14, got my hunter's license and started that route with chasing deer and elk and birds and so on, and did that all through high school. Never got real serious about it until I kind of linked up with Eric. We went to high school together. And once we kind of started putting our minds together and then introduced Jeff into the group is really when things started to take off. And that's where we're at now, is we're just getting started, and I don't think we could be any happier with it.
Cool. Yeah. And I'm Eric Forslin. I grew up in Snoqualmie, Washington. And I started hunting when I was 8 years old with my dad, chasing him around Moses Lake, pheasant hunting and doing lots of duck hunting. And then in high school is when I started getting into bow hunting, got my first bow on a camping trip in Montana, actually, when I was 15, and chased whitetails. And then, kind of after in college and after college, I met up with Paul, and we started hunting together around here, chasing West Side bulls. And then, 4 years ago is when we met up with Jeff and started hunting Idaho and getting out there doing the out-of-state stuff, and been a learning process. It's been
some
awesome.
Time chasing blacktop bulls is what we used to call them.
Exactly, yes.
In between housing developments, and anytime there was public land somewhere surrounded by private land.
Blacktop bulls.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been great. Got a great crew of guys we hunt with, and definitely looking forward to the future. It's getting better every year and learning tons. So
yeah.
Yeah, you guys got a pretty cool thing going. In fact, I think we all have the same hat on.
Different colors.
Different colors.
Hunt Wild. Tell me a little bit about what you guys got going on there.
You see a lot of people that start pages up and outdoor things, and it's cool. A lot of people try to push it for sponsors and that kind of stuff, and they think if they video with everything, then people will just jump in their lap. But really, this is just for us.
Yeah,
it's a brand for us. I don't really care past that what it does. Something that if we put a film together, and instead of the 4 names or 3 names or whatever we do together, we just put hunt wild, and it's for us.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. Now you guys do, Jeff, I know you do a lot of videos. I've seen a lot of your videos in the past, and they're pretty awesome. I got to say, they're unique. They're pretty creative. Is that something you guys are going to be doing a lot of with all your hunts? Are you guys going to be videoing?
Yeah, we're hoping to do 2 to 3 a year.
Wow.
Which is a lot for us, I think.
It's a lot of editing, man.
Yeah. Luckily, I've got a great
Is that you?
friend.
Yeah, if we're being honest, it's a lot for Jeff. Eric and I kind of lucked out in the fact that he was kind of going that route when we met up with him, and so we're lucky because we get a star in a lot of the videos, but we don't put as much work into them. And so we're working on that, is trying to get better at filming. And
by working on it, that means
and
they take 10 pictures a hunt.
10 pictures of hunt.
I download a lot of editing apps on my iPhone. That's me working on it.
Yeah,
We're working on it. It's a lot of work. It's pretty crazy. Me taking a picture and looking at what Jeff takes of the same thing. It's amazing how much better his stuff looks. So
Yeah.
It's
he's a good guy to learn from, for sure. So
it's a dedication, and I think we all have a lot to go, a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even like day 2, 3, when we weren't seeing a lot of bucks on this hunt, fast forward, but you kind of ditch that, and you're like, okay, I got to go in hunt mode for a second. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So it's hard. You got to keep to the camera.
Right. Yeah. I could see that happening. I'm terrible about filming anything. And so I think what you guys had with this hunt, especially, one guy had a tag. Jeff, you went down there to help and film and photo and all that, I'm guessing. But that's kind of the ideal situation. Because when you're hunting, if you would have had a tag, how much time do you want to spend thinking about your camera and angles and being creative?
Yeah. And we thought he was maybe going to draw one in that second draw, too.
Yeah.
And after, we're like, man, it feels good just to like go.
It took
Paul
3 minutes for me to be upset. And I was like, now this is a better idea.
Yeah, we got a text from him that said he didn't draw, and the next text was about how he was so excited to go down and just be able to spend time behind a camera and really capture this. And what's funny is because he says he's going to spend time behind the camera, which he does, but he also spots 3/4 of the bucks that we end up seeing.
Right.
So it works out pretty good.
That's a good guy to have with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll start off by talking about the tag. We all kind of found out, I think, same day, a while back. We all drew, Paul, you and I drew the same unit in Nevada. I don't remember when those came out. It was a while back. But
it was May.
Yeah. Coming back from a bear hunt.
Yeah, so it would have been close to Memorial Day weekend because we were coming back from a bear hunt in Coeur d'Alene. We were actually sitting in Mod Pizza, and I didn't even check my phone. I know these guys were big into trying to figure out when results were coming, and I'd never put in for it before. And I know, was that your first time putting in, Jeff?
Yeah, for Nevada.
Eric's put in a few times, and he's drawn before, and so we're like, oh, maybe we'll have a good chance. And Jeff was actually the one that found your name, and then he looked over at me and he goes, dude, you just drew Nevada.
Nice. Oh, man, that's when
awesome.
Draws come at us like Christmas morning.
Yeah, I think we were high-fiving and cheering, and everybody in that place was looking at us like, what is going on?
I get it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so did you guys have a strategy as far as what units you were putting in for when you picked Nevada?
I didn't, but I just listened to what these two pretty much said. So
just going for any unit.
We went for mostly public land, first of all.
Yeah.
We looked on Go Hunt a lot, checking through. Easy to draw because anything in Nevada is going to be better than what we see over here for the most part. And then we went for as much roadless or wilderness we could do, so we could be away from, the vast majority of people.
Right.
Eric puts a ton of work into that. I don't know what his process is.
Yeah, I use all their filters on there and just kind of figure out what has a lot of public land, and then kind of that mix between draw results, roadless, and all that stuff. And then with Nevada, obviously, the way their draw system works, I go, okay, what's going to be just going for it, maybe get lucky for the first couple, and then some ones that'll be, okay, if we draw this, it'll be a good hunt. If we hunt hard, we can see some deer and all that. So I think, what was it? Probably your third or fourth choice. I know our first two.
I think it was my fourth choice.
It was shooting for the stars. And I think we all put in for the same thing.
Yeah, we did.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
We didn't realize how Nevada worked. That was the unit we wanted.
Right.
I mean, we weren't shooting for the stars at that point, but that's the unit we wanted. And then we found out we could put it as our third or fourth pick. And we're like, oh, let's put in for these other ones too, you know. So
yeah, man, that is so familiar. That's exactly how my process worked. I went through all the filters on Go Hunt. Go Hunt's just made it super easy because, like you said, you can put in the public land thing, you can put in the percentages, the higher percentages, all this kind of stuff, and put it in, and it kind of spits out the units that align with what you're looking for and makes it really, really nice compared to back in the day, which I love researching that kind of stuff anyway.
Yep.
This just makes it to where it's not as much time invested in research, and so makes my wife happier. I'm not just pinned down to a desk poring over maps and internet sites. So yeah, that was mine strategy as well, is knowing how Nevada works with that five draws. They basically just pull a number.
Yeah.
And you might as well shoot for the stars in your first 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And then 4 or 5, get something in there where you just, if you really want to hunt anywhere, throw it out there. And that was my 4th choice, that unit as well. I shot for the stars and, put in for the unit I'd drawn last year and all that. And then the last 2 were just, I really wanted to hunt the unit we drew. That was my driving back last year. I just kind of recognized something in that range. It just looked right. It was close enough. It looked pretty good, and that's what I went for. And then, my 5th choice was, a little even higher odds than that. So I just figured I went into it, even though it was maybe only, 30-40% chance of drawing.
Yeah, I think it's something like that, yeah.
I just felt like that's good enough. I'm going to draw that.
It's an August hunt.
Yeah, it's an August hunt. It opens it up, and I can't believe there was actually leftover tags this year. There's something like 45 extra tags. So I can't believe you didn't get drawn in that second draw.
Interesting.
Yeah, I talked to some guys back there, and they drew it in the second draw, all 3 of them. So
wow.
Yeah.
But,
I can't even draw a multi-season deer tag, so
wow. I thought that was 100%.
Maybe next year we'll get lucky.
2 years in a row. Zip
Yeah.
up.
I think I've drawn that like 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
I can't draw the elk multi-season to save my life, but deer for sure. So cool. So you guys, so you found out about that hunt. What did you do? What did you guys start doing immediately?
I think before we even started eating, we probably had maps pulled up and started looking
Pizza
at maps.
showed up and you're still...
Exactly. Yeah. Food came second to us at that point, which doesn't usually happen very often, at least with Eric and I. But yeah, we started going over maps and just started maybe throwing out some dates and just looking at research and figuring out where we're going to be and what we want to do and what we could do to make it the hunt we really wanted it to be. And it was nonstop from that point on. I mean, 150 group text messages a day at least.
That's
Every day, it's like that with us. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. At times I felt bad because I felt like these guys were putting in more work than I was because I'd come back to my phone with 60 text messages about a basin or something like that.
Have you looked at this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's addicting.
We started, we looked at the country too, and we wanted a high country hunt. Beautiful green basins where you could see, that's what we wanted. So those are the spots we looked at. Some of the ranges had it, some of them didn't. We thought, okay, let's get to the top. That's where we're going to be. That's what we have to do. So we kind of narrowed it down pretty quick. It's a pretty big range, though. It's a lot bigger than you think. So there's
the maps don't
30-mile stretch in there where you had to pick out. That was where we had to kind of refine it from there, which changed, I don't know, half dozen times probably.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it didn't help that there's 4 ranges in that unit that.
It's a lot of area.
We'd spend 2 days talking about this unit, and all of a sudden we'd see something we'd like, 40 miles away, and be like, "Oh, what about this?" And then, "What about that?" And it was kind of a pinball effect.
That's what's interesting about that is, I kind of went into it with the mindset that, there's a fair amount of tags given. There's a lot of locals that probably know the country. It's probably going to be there's not a lot of wilderness. There's no wilderness in this draw. It's probably going to be a lot of folks, but to my surprise. It wasn't like that. I don't know about you guys.
We didn't see another person.
I didn't see anybody. I saw some guys down by the road driving in, but and I talked to a group of guys that I'd actually met on a train to hunt, but they were hunting a different range, and I kind of left that alone, and they were seeing some stuff, and that was it though. I never saw a guy once I got off the trail.
Yep.
So
we saw a lot of guys driving around the fields.
Yeah, you could see the side by sides way down below.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We ran into 2 guys that were up hiking, and they were utterly shocked to see that there was people where they were going hiking, and so that made us feel a lot better.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's the thing about Nevada is it's so unique because It's so different than what we're used to here in Washington. You get up in the high country here, you don't see roads, you can't see. But in Nevada, those ranges just crop up out of nowhere, and you could be up on top, and you could glass way, way down. You're up in mule deer country, and you're looking down on jackrabbit and antelope country.
Yeah.
And that's where the roads are, and you're just up top.
Yeah.
But these ranges aren't huge. They're kind of narrow,
Yes.
but long.
Yep.
So you
Yep.
could be up top, and you know, the only people that you are going to see, you don't hear roads, but you may see a side-by-side if you look far enough out into the flat somewhere.
Yep.
So
It's cool country.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've fallen in love with those mountains of Nevada. It's just unbelievable for mule deer.
It's pretty doable too for most guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it was steep, but as long as you can get up there, I mean, for the most part, I mean, we're not.
Yeah.
You can kind of
Mountain
make
man,
it how you want it, right? You could have hunted the mid-range country and had a little
Exactly.
more gentle slopes, or even the flats. You know, there's guys that, you know, maybe they want to hunt for giants down by ag fields. You could have done that and done pretty dang well, from what I hear.
We saw a
pretty
nice
good buck down
we
there,
saw a nice
actually.
buck driving in.
Did you?
coming out of
It was
the
actually
alfalfa.
injured. Yeah, it was the back leg. I think someone actually shot that buck in the back leg. He ran 40 yards. There was a ground blind set up right by the road.
Yeah.
And this buck, it was the back right leg. He was just limping around. I think he was probably shot by someone.
Yeah, I know. You know, when you kind of do your research and you talk to as many people as you can, I got a lot of feedback telling me to don't forget the ag fields. Don't bypass the ag fields. Yet, kind of how we hunt is I'm passing those ag fields.
Yeah.
I'm going to get past them.
Yep.
That's for other guys. They can go down and, you know, great hunt, man. They could pull bigger bucks down there for sure.
Yeah.
I could see it with all the feed. It's just not a hunt that I was really interested in doing. Really flat, probably an ambush style hunt, ground blind, all that kind of thing.
We saw more deer down there than anywhere.
up top.
I mean, there was.
Yeah, we drove
drove
one
through
morning
it
to
one
grab
morning.
water, and we're like, wow, this is...
There's 100 deer down there.
Wow.
I mean, you drive and they're just jumping out of that alfalfa, and you're like, whoa, whoa.
Standing in the road right next to you. Yeah, it was.
And that one buck, it's like, oh, he's a nice buck. And we're like, look at each other.
This
We're not
isn't-
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't. We didn't drive 12 hours to go
12.
hunt alfalfa.
We didn't drive at all.
Yeah. Kelby, yeah, it
True.
was great having him.
Yeah, that was kind of nice.
Hey, you guys all piled into one rig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we.
Our ADD friend, Kelby. Just, I'll drive, guys. And we're like, all right, see
Great
ya.
guy.
Yeah, we all offered to drive a few times, and he was pretty set in his ways on getting us there, and so it made time for more map work as we came in and out of service. That's for sure.
Oh, that's perfect.
Map or nap?
Both.
Yeah, true.
Eric's the king sleeper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys had four fellas on this hunt.
Yep.
So when you guys got down there, all that map work that you'd done, I'm sure you spent a little time on some satellite imagery and all that. Did it look the same when you got there?
Yes, just a lot bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah.
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 It was, when you shrink it down into a map and then you look at it and you're like, that range is like 2.5 miles long. It's going to take us 3 hours to get over there with the cliffs and the rocks. And it's just like 2,000 feet down, 2,000 feet up. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot steeper than I expected.
Yeah.
But still manageable.
It was. It
weird.
totally was. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always the case. I think guys get baffled sometimes or fooled when they're doing the research. They'll think, well, that's not big enough, right? But maps always, it's always more intimidating when you get there. Maps always make it look smaller. Even though that you've hunted hunts like that where you think, yeah, it's probably pretty big, but on the map it's a couple miles. Then when you get there and you realize, holy smokes, I'm not going to see anybody back there. But
We were worried about that because we kind of were thinking, hey, this spot looks awesome. There's going to be 5 other guys up here.
right,
We were just so worried about that. And then when we got in there, I mean, there's nobody.
yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, and in today's social media as well, everybody talks about the highest points.
Yeah.
Right? They talk about that. So you'd think that'd catch on and guys would just go for the highest points. And I definitely have that, in my thought process is probably going to be guys there because there's not that many of those high points. There's probably going to be a handful of guys there that know what they're doing. But it wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Didn't
No, I think on our way
see
down, we
it.
looked at probably the best 2 or 3 spots we thought, and instantly said, okay, well, there's going to be guys there, because if we're looking at it saying, wow, look at that, how many other people are saying,
Right.
wow, look at that? And so we kind of went the opposite way. And I think after a few days, I think we ended up back in those first spots that we thought looked good and never saw a soul.
Never saw anybody.
Yeah.
Cool. So how far, when you guys parked the truck, how far of a hike in were you guys?
We moved quite a bit the first 3 days, just kind of checking stuff off and hike into a spot, didn't like it. The first day, I think we went in 3.5.
Yeah, it was 7.5 round trip. So
okay.
We pulled up in there at 2 o'clock in the morning and kicked the seats back in the truck and said we'll see if we can get 2 hours of sleep. I don't think any of us slept. Maybe Jeff, because he was snoring in my ear. I was kind of jealous of that. And come daybreak, we opened up the doors and everything looked a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And that's when we started out. And I think 7 miles that first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, round trip, I should say. So
Nice. Yeah, that's kind of a strategy I use when hunting country I've never been at, is just count on the first couple 3 days, learning it, driving it, hitting the boundaries and just checking places off that you may have in your head that you should look at later. Maybe they don't look the same when you actually get there. And I like getting to a spot and just saying, okay, that's a spot I don't need to look at again. So I don't have it running through my head when I'm on the mountain hunting and I'm not seeing something. So, I always do like to kind of drive around and spend some time. It's worth it than just bombing into a spot.
We drove north to south. We drove the entire range.
We should have done that first.
That was the second or
second day.
Second day we did that. And we should have done that. Okay, day one, just drive the range.
Yeah, we just glassed from the road. We said, okay, there's green up there. Looks like something we'd want to hunt. It's 4 miles. We can do it.
Yeah.
Let's do that if we don't do this. So we checked off a lot of country.
Yeah, it was by day 2 or 3. We literally drove around the entire mountain range.
Yeah.
Just kind of figuring out how long it was, what looked good, where we wanted to be, and so forth, which in hindsight we should have done that the first day, but that comes with us learning.
Yeah.
Were you guys surprised at, hunting high desert, how green it was this year?
Oh, it was
unreal. It was thick, too.
It was.
It was,
I know I was. I got down there. I was like, man, this is not like it was last year. Last year was brown, real dry sagebrush. And this year, everything seemed green.
It was green. It was tall. I mean, I remember glassing some basins, thinking, how are we not seeing any deer in there? And all of a sudden, you'd catch yourself walking through that basin, and it was sagebrush, belly button deep. And you're like, oh, that makes sense.
They're probably in there.
Yeah, exactly.
They're definitely in there, for sure.
Yeah, like I was telling you guys, I was finding mushrooms on the tip tops of mountains at 10,000 feet, 9,000 feet, where I never expected to see mushrooms.
Yeah.
In August in Nevada.
Not be.
No. Yeah. No, it was crazy. But I think that added to the excitement of drawing a tag like that this year, is just the winter that we had and the snow that stuck around. This is about the best year to draw an area like that, or a state like that, where it's high desert. I just figured best growth you're going to see is a year like this. And you got all that wet and green. So, yeah, that was perfect. So what were your expectations when you first drew this tag? I want to hear about your expectations.
This is where it gets good.
Go ahead, Paul.
I'd never been to Nevada before on a hunt. I've seen a lot of pictures and heard a lot of stories, and so instantly right off the top, I knew I didn't draw the best unit or anything like that in Nevada, but from what we'd read and from the work we did beforehand, I knew it was a decent unit. And so, to be flat out completely honest and just cut to the chase, on our drive down, there was multiple jokes of, well, we should put some stocks on some 150s just for practice,
Sure.
Maybe go in there and get close and kick a few rocks and just say you did it. And it wasn't like that at all, but my expectations were high. I mean, it was, I wasn't going down there thinking I was going to shoot a 180, but I thought I was going to be glassing some bigger bucks than I see in Washington on a regular basis, that's for sure.
We were thinking whether it was a buck that he was like, hey, that's a buck I want to kill, or we were thinking that 170 mark for us. Not pushing for the biggest deer out there, but
secretly I was thinking 160. But I just let these guys. Every day I'd get pictures. Shooter or not a shooter?
Oh, yeah.
5, 6, 7 times a day I'd get pictures.
Yeah. So
that makes it fun.
170 was our benchmark for the first half of the hunt, at least. And then we were going to slowly, gradually drop it down.
So day one, you guys get up there. What do you guys find?
No water.
No water.
At least where we were.
Yeah, the biologist, he's like, yeah, I told him kind of where we were looking, and he's like, oh yeah, there's tons of water up top there. So we brought enough for, the day and stuff. We're like, hey, we'll find a spring that evening. And
Well, as soon as we
there's
got out of the truck
nothing.
that morning and I saw that hill, I knew my water was going to be slim by the time I got to the top.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, what did you guys start out with? What did you guys pack in that first trip?
Everything.
Way too much food because we thought that was the spot we were going to be the entire time and that we were going to find water. So we had 8 or 9 days of food with us.
Yeah.
And we hiked. Yeah, it was.
I had every piece of camera equipment I had.
Yeah.
And that slowly.
It was heavy
changed.
packs. Yeah.
Yeah.
We all had to have been pushing 65 to 70 pounds, honestly, on the way up that first hill. And it was 3.5 miles to the top of the hill. There was no bench. There was no flat spot. It was a climb the whole
brutal.
way. And
Now,
8 days of food.
is this a spot you guys had kind of like researched on the maps and looked for a spring, anything like that?
There were like
was.
4 springs on Onyx, like within the areas we went, and we went to all of them. There's no water.
No water.
No,
Oh, no.
We kind of tried. Our first spot was like, hey, we think there's going to be guys here. So let's go over here. It's pretty similar. We started hiking. I mean, we didn't see any deer sign. It was just like we got up there and we're like, oh, next basin's going to have deer. It has to. We'd get there and we'd look, and it was just like, we can't stalk in this stuff. It was just nasty.
And honestly, the whole time climbing, there wasn't much green. It was.
Yeah.
It looked like we were in the dry desert at that point. It wasn't green. It wasn't kind of what we were thinking it was going to look like on the way
It was
down.
interesting.
Right. So did you guys quickly kind of change areas? How many days did you guys spend in
We
that
didn't
country?
spend a night there. We
So-
left that day.
Took off.
Yeah, we did a bunch of glassing that night, and just with the lack of water, we knew we had to come down pretty soon anyway. But it was on the hike down that was it Kelby or Jeff that spotted those bucks.
We bumped out, what was it, a couple does in front of us.
Coming
And that
down,
morning
yeah.
when we got to the top, we spotted a few does down in the flats. I mean, 3,000 feet below us. But what pushed us out of there really was it wasn't green. We didn't see the deer that we wanted to see, and a wildfire had actually started just over the ridge,
right, yeah.
not far from us
Oh,
that day. And it was kind of burning in our direction, but it wasn't bad. But it was to the point where it's like, they're going to be helicopters all over us, and they're going to be dropping, fire retardant and stuff like that. I was thinking maybe we should hike off the hill, so that just made it even easier.
right. Now, was that a lightning strike fire? Do you
I'm
know?
not sure.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the middle
never
of an
heard.
ag field or a sage field down there, so I don't think it was
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looked like it could have been more related to lightning than where anybody else would actually be.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Hiking down, we saw that. That's where we saw those first 2 bucks.
Yeah,
Hiking down off the hill that
across the
afternoon, right?
drainage. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's surprisingly a lot of fires kind of cropped up down there while we were down there. Here and there, a few places had some smoke.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
glassing a little tricky. Not as clear through the spotter.
Yeah.
No.
But so how kind of where did you guys transition to after that spot didn't quite pan out?
Yeah, so we came back down, and I think we got back to the truck that afternoon at 3 o'clock, and I think our first thought of the day was, let's get these packs off our back and our boots off and sit here for 10 minutes because we went in way too heavy, thinking that we were going to be there for 8 days, and that was a good hike. So we sat there for a little bit and kind of figured out what we wanted to do, where we wanted to go, and I think that's the afternoon we said, well, let's just maybe start driving around this range and see if we can get eyes on something that we like and kind of mark off places that we don't like,
Sure.
rather than sitting here thinking to ourselves, oh, what does this look like? What does that look like? Because you're sitting in one spot, but you're still looking at a map thinking, oh, look at this, 2 drainages over. Like
The grass could be greener. over there.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I think we
I
wanted
get
to
it.
get that out of our heads. I think that was all eating at us a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that afternoon, we spent most of that afternoon driving around.
Yeah. We had it down to pretty much 2 areas. One of them is where we went, and then one of them there was people.
That's right.
We drove in there, and there was 3 camps set up, 4 camps set up, and we're like, nah.
Yeah.
Even though they were all at the bottom, it was just like, no, let's just go elsewhere.
There's places.
We knew there was
not
places
have
you could not see anybody.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. For sure.
So we loaded up on water, made a new game plan. Let's hunt 2 to 3 days at a time if we have to drop down for water. That way we're not packing in 8 days of food.
Yeah.
So we were just going to kind of go up, send a guy down to get food and water, or 2 guys, keep 2 guys glassing, and just keep it rolling from there. So I think we hiked into the bottom. We hiked about halfway at the spot we ended up at because we didn't want to waste the time again. got about halfway in, glassed up a ton of bucks that night. I think we glassed up 15 bucks
Yeah,
in that area.
something like that.
And we knew there was more country that we were missing too. And I think it was at that point we were like, okay, we're going to the top and we're going to hunt this. We're going to be here.
We knew that was a place we wanted to spend at least 2 or 3 days in, just to see what all it had to offer, because you're not seeing everything that first night.
Sure. Any good bucks in that group?
Well, after not seeing any deer the first couple days, there was one 4-point that we saw that was probably pushing 160.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure. He was a nice deer though, really nice deer. Not real wide, but he was pretty tall, good forks all the way around, not crabby.
He was everything that we kind of expected to see.
We thought that'd be the typical
hunt.
buck we'd see.
So you'd stalk in on and throw a rock at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So at that point though, I mean, we were like, hey, let's kill this deer if we can.
Yeah.
I think we spent the night there that night.
We spent 2 nights on that hillside there.
But we woke up the next day and he was like 800 yards from us, bedded on the bottom. Yeah, I mean, he dropped 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet.
He cut
probably.
the distance in half to us,
It
which was
just
nice
like-
because he went from the top the first day to halfway the
Yeah.
second morning when we woke up. And that's the day that it kind of got overcast and dropped down to like 60 degrees. And I don't know if that played a role in him coming down, but it went from 3 days at 100 to overcast and 60. I mean, we had jackets on that morning. So I don't
those
know
who
if,
packed them.
yeah.
Yeah. So then what did you guys do? Was that your play? Did you guys go after him that morning?
We did. We let him bed up a couple different times. One of those smaller bucks in the group kept, every time they'd stop, he'd lay down. We're like, oh, is this going to be it? And then they'd move down another 50 yards. I'm like, perfect. Just keep coming.
Yeah.
Just keep coming. I think me and Paul were kind of just sitting there like, we got so much time. Let's just wait and see what happens until we know for a fact where they're at, and then we'll make a play. So they finally bed down, all 4 of them. We had eyes on them with the spotter, which is nice. They were right on top of a ridge. We knew we could sneak up the drainage, jump on top of them, and work our way down. Hopefully the wind was right up there. And once we probably let them lay for an hour.
Yeah, we were kind of just chatting because it was Paul and Jeff that were going to do the stalking, and me and Kelby were on the ridge, keeping eyes on them and just searching for other deer, which we ended up seeing like 4 or 5 other deer in the route that they were planning on taking around. So it's like, okay, are they going to bust out and go bust those guys out or what?
That was a learning experience too.
Oh,
Because
I
it's like,
learned
okay,
a ton on that.
you almost have to jump up underneath them and push them out, or you keep the wind in your favor and you try to sneak around them.
Right.
It was like, what do we do? What do we do? So we decided to go up above them. Ended up coming right down on top of them. Like there was more deer than we even knew about.
Way more deer. Yeah.
Eric sent me a text because service pops up once in a while. He's like, dude, there's a deer 30 yards from you.
Yeah.
And we're like, where? and he was just staring at us. It was a little 4-point. And we look over and Paul's knocking an arrow. And I'm like, don't do it. Please don't do it. But he ended up blowing out right into those deer that we were going to stalk on.
No way.
And by the time he got to them, though, he had calmed down. Didn't even bug them.
Yeah, that's what we weren't sure, because there was a few does that were bedded, and they just started moving, working their way up, and he heard you guys, but you had the wind right, so he didn't spook out. He was looking.
Yeah, we were there was a ridge that split us. We were just on the either side. We could have thrown a rock and probably hit him as far as distance, but there was a little knoll in between us, and so he couldn't see us, but he could definitely hear us because Eric's like, he's looking right in your direction.
He's
but
looking, yeah.
Can't smell you. He just hears something over there.
So he came, you popped right over the hill, and he was right there. But it was amazing for me and Kelby watching the deer. You could see they freaking out going down, and you could see him just decompress and then go down. And he actually walked straight into that deer bed where that big buck was at. And he just walked through. Didn't say, communicate with him and say, hey, there's something going on, buggy up here. And he just walked through and bedded down below him. I was like,
because we all kind of
blow them out.
We kind of talked about that beforehand. Is how are we going to get around these deer, and if we blow them out, what are they going to do? Because this being our first high country mule deer hunt with the bow, I mean, we've hunted mule deer rifle, but it's different. You don't know, you don't really get the opportunity to see how they act, and so we were talking. If we blow them out, are they going to decompress by the time they get to those deer, or is all hell going to break loose and this whole hillside is going to start moving?
Right.
And so that was refreshing to see that even though we kind of jumped those, by the time they went 100 yards, they were pretty chill and didn't stir up any more commotion.
That happened twice. Another group of deer did the exact same thing. and they did decompress within 100 yards and just kind of walked right through their bed and nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I was surprised at, and this is 2 years in a row, is in cat country, because there's a lot of cats down there, that they're not more jumpy than they are. They do hear stuff, but I've been in cat country before. Like if there's a cat running in some of the basins I hunt here in Washington, man, those deer are spooky. And when they blow out fast and hard, and they are gone for days. But down there, it's not so much, which is surprising because there's more cats down there than what I deal with here. But yeah, they'll hear you, and they don't just take off and go for days, but they just kind of put their head up and wait to see you.
Yeah,
shocking.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So from there, our stock kept going. We knew we were probably 300-400 yards above them. So we wanted to get around 200 yards, take our boots off, put our stalkers on, start getting in close. We used to go tennis on this trip, which half good, half bad on that. It's kind of a delayed response, but we tried to keep a little communication. Mm-hmm. Kind of got us on the right path on the ridge.
So wait, what was that? It was the GoTenna. What's that?
It's a little device, kind of pulls out as like an antenna, and you hook it up to your phone on an app.
Okay.
So you can text back and forth with each other, and it's not a plan either. It's a $99 purchase. You get 2 of them. Hook it up to your app, and you can text back and forth. And I think it's got a 4-mile range if it's clear.
No kidding.
Yeah, no cell service, nothing like that.
They definitely work, but sometimes it takes a few minutes for them to come through. Yeah. Sometimes it's immediate. So
gotcha.
I think it depends a lot on the terrain too. As far as if you're straight across the basin from each other, it's a pretty direct line. But if you're up and down and around a corner, I think it has takes a little bit longer for it to find you. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. And it's called GoTenna.
GoTenna.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Be perfect for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because service down there was surprisingly good, but most places
on top it was.
It's not.
Yeah, on top it was great.
Okay, so go ahead.
So we kept going down. We treated it because it kind of just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. You could only see 60 yards at a time. We're like, deer are going to be right on the other side. Because, up there, you're thinking we're at the bottom. So you get up, and you're like, nope, not here. Okay, so wind starts rolling. You cruise through that next 50, 60 yards. You get to the next one, and you're like, they're going to be right here. Nope, not here. And then the GoTenna would come through and be like, hurry up, you guys are slow. What are you doing? And
you guys are just being ridiculously cautious.
Oh, yeah. So I look at Paul, and I'm like, I'm going to punch Eric.
Yeah, they definitely thought, well, the problem with it is that when the text would come through, they would be 60 yards further than when I actually sent them out, or things would change. So that's frustrating for Jeff on that end, And that's where you learn. It's just like, okay, probably not worth. They're nice, but you can't definitely rely on them, which is perfect. And the thing is, we could see how far they were from the deer, and they, like he said, he thought they were within 60 yards when they were 120 or whatever.
Yeah. So it's noon time though, noonish one, and we're thinking, dude, we don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a couple times.
This is our first stalk.
I would look back. I'd hear Jeff's phone buzz, and I would assume it was a message from Eric. And I'd look back at Jeff, and I'd be like, is he saying something that I need to know? And Jeff would just look at me and shake his head and put his phone in his pocket.
The problem is, I had Kelby next to me, and he's like
energetic,
very energetic, awesome guy. But he just definitely stop, like telling me that. I'm like, Kelby, they can't hear you, bud. Like, just stop. But yeah. So anyway, they worked, but it was definitely something like they probably could have used a little bit less.
Yeah.
The problem was also, he was getting 4 or 5 at one time when they would go through. Mm-hmm. So it's like boom, 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 boom. When I probably sent them 5 minutes apart, So
yeah,
learning experience for sure.
So kind of at that point, we abandoned GoTenna.
Yeah.
Me and Paul were like, this is our stock. We're gonna do it how we think we should do it.
Sure. Definitely.
I think we got to a couple parts, and Paul was like, dude, I'm scared. Go first.
Yeah.
Just go. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, dude, just go. My heart's beating so bad right now. So I'd go up the next 5 yards, and I'd turn around like, all right, we're good. Come on, let's go.
Because you'd get to those little shelves, and it was like, you can see 40, 50 yards at a time, and I'd get to a shelf thinking, all right, I'm going to step right here and be able to make this shot right below me. And I'd be sitting back there feeling my heart pump, and I'd be like, all right, Jeff, just peek over and tell me if I'm shooting or not.
There you go.
Yeah. So we kept doing that. We got to where we had one rock that we knew once we were there, that's where the deer were. So we kind of were looking, and it looks a little different, but we're like, that's got to be the rock. It's got to be it. And the wind's coming at our face, but kind of out of an angle. We're sitting there,
And that was right about the time that GoTown decided to work, and a text message from Eric said, "Oh, you're about 80 yards out." And I think it turned out to be what, maybe 30?
Yeah. So
When they got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they got it, they were at like,
So we were at 30 yards. I got a text saying, "Oh, you're 80 yards out." And I was like, okay, that sounds good. I mean, we'll work. I could see the little ledge that I wanted to get to. And at that point, with him saying I was 80 yards out, I was like, those deer are going to be just off this ledge. I was like, I might be shooting 25-yard tops right down on top of them. It's going to be perfect. And I stepped around to the left of a tree right there, and I caught a 3-point walking through. And at that point, I looked in front of me, and I said, that's the rock that I was thinking it was, but didn't want to believe. And it turned out they were, 30 yards, and we didn't even know it.
At that point, we'd gotten down a little too far. One of them had fed up, caught our wind, and once he blew out, the whole gig was kind of up, and they
still didn't really blow out. They kind of, I mean, they
took
walked
off.
off, but they didn't stop. But I mean, they weren't blowing and running and all that until 5 minutes later. Once the ones went out the bottom caught us, they kind of figured out what was going on. But the buck we were after, he didn't really blow out, but he knew something wasn't right. But
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking I could see a problem with GoTenna already.
big time.
Yep.
When there's a delay. Because if it's not immediate and the guy's saying, oh, it's 80 yards, and
Yep.
you're now 30 yards, you think you got more than you have.
Yeah.
yeah,
We definitely abandoned it after that. It was just kind of
at that point we knew that we'd still use it, but we knew it wasn't going to work in the way we had intended for it to work.
Sure.
I think we learned too, like not relying on like taking an extra 10 minutes to get your landmark set before you go.
taking pictures.
And a picture on the of that. I think that would have helped us out a lot, and I think we definitely learned big time.
It's
on
amazing
that.
too how much stuff looks different
when you
at a
get
different
there.
angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, completely true. I mean, it seems like the more stocks you've gone on, and as years go by, that's the one thing that bites you more than anything.
Yeah.
You get over there and you realize I did not spend enough time.
Yeah.
You know, not just one landmark, but 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah, we picked out that one rock as a landmark, and then we got
But
down
that's where
there.
the deer were.
That's where the
Yeah.
deer were, and then I think when we got to in that area, there was 4 rocks that looked just like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
But we did see
taking
their beds.
taking a photo helps.
Yeah.
It can help. I've gone to that on certain occasions, certain basins. It really helps out.
Yeah.
Maybe on a ridge line, I don't know. It might be a little bit different, but
Yeah.
That was another thing too. We thought the ridge would be more defined, but it was pretty wide. I
Right.
mean, you look at it at 1,000 yards, and you're like, "Oh, the deer are right on top of the ridge."
Looking
Perfect.
straight
We're going to go to
across.
the top of the ridge. We're going to walk right down on top of them. And then you get up there, and you're like, "It's 100 yards wide."
Yeah.
So, if we would have come down 20 yards to the right, money.
Yeah.
We would have seen them before they saw us. It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
so that stock is blown at that point. Where do you guys go from there? You guys,
Well,
I think at
we,
that point
we hadn't given it up yet
Yeah.
because they actually started feeding again. And we were thinking, hey, we could drop down, run around the other side, beat them to the top. Maybe they'll feed right up to us. And then we looked at it, and we looked back at where they were, and we're like, that's a lot farther than it looks. So we kind of watched them for, I don't know, probably a half hour.
Yeah, some weather started to roll in.
Started to rain. We didn't have any food on us at that point. I think we had one bar. We just like, let's.
so you two had dropped your packs
We did up top.
up top. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Dropped our packs, dropped our boots. And that was another decision. It's like, are we going to wear our stalkers and try to go down and around and up, or are we going to spend 15 minutes getting back to the top of the hill to put our boots on
Right.
and come back down the hill and go chase them? So we ended up actually just going back to where we were camped on the ridge and trying to set up another game plan, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a dilemma I had this year. Was I started on a stalk, and all of a sudden, when the stalk started, everything was peachy. Weather was good, it was nice. And then about mid-stock, hour and a half, 2 hours later, all of a sudden the wind kicks up,
Yep.
the rain comes in, and total rookie mistake. I should have known better, but I left my pack in a spot where it could get drenched, and my shoes. So, I know I made the choice to back out, go back up, because I had everything in that pack.
Mhm.
My
Yeah.
cameras, everything was in that pack. So that was a big mistake on my part.
Yeah, that also helped in our decision was when that weather came in, the wind would be perfect for a minute, and all of a sudden it would just totally switch. And I remember Jeff and I looking at each other saying, "That's not really a gamble we want to take," because it was swirling good at that point, and so that helped.
We still had hopes that they'd be in the bowl or the basin, either that draw or the next one over that next morning.
Yeah.
So we're like, let's let them rest. They don't seem too spooked. We'll get on them again.
Right.
Was our thought. So what did we do after that?
I think we went back to the ridge we were camped on, told these guys kind of what happened, and that's when we kind of figured out the whole GoTenna thing and sat there and talked about that. I think we got some food and water at that point because I think we were pretty wore out. There was some good. I mean, we had to drop at least 1,500 feet in elevation just to go up 1,500 feet in elevation to drop down on the deer, and then ended up going back to our boots another 1,500 feet, and then back down and back up to camp. So we were putting our work in. So I think at that point we got some food and water and just tried to figure it out. Is there any more deer in this basin we haven't seen yet? And we kept eyes on those to figure it out if they were going to stay in there that night and bed down because it was 4 or 5 o'clock at that point. We knew it was going to be getting dark in the next couple hours, and so we spent that evening just watching them, seeing what they would do, and they stayed pretty much right where they ended up feeding after we pushed them out of there, and we had high hopes that they'd be there in the morning.
Yeah. Was it the next day that because most of the deer we saw were kind of up on this, it was like the highest part of that range actually.
Yeah.
And we knew that there was a trailhead that kind of led up to that peak. So that's when we changed directions, went around the mountain range, and then hiked up, and that's where we ended up, right?
We did.
Yeah, we stayed there that night, and then that morning we woke up, we watched those bucks feed over the top, and at that point, that's when we made that decision. Let's head back down to the truck, and then drive around, and then hike to the very top, because we were kind of mid-level. We wanted to be at the top after seeing what we saw in there and watching what the deer were doing and where they're going. We made the decision, let's go around to the backside and hike to the very top. And let's see if we can set up there for 2 or 3 days. And so that's the route we went. And that was day 4, I believe.
4 or 5, one of the two.
Well, we didn't stalk until day 5.
Yeah, true. So that would have been day 6.
Day 6.
Yeah. We're headed there, yeah.
So how many stalks did you actually have on your entire trip, would you say, Paul?
3.
3 stalks?
3 stalks.
We could have done more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They glassed up a couple. One was an old 2-point,
Really
big,
cool.
heavy 2-point. But
Yeah, he was a cool buck.
it was late at night, and we were glassing probably, 500 feet below him.
And that was day 2, right?
Yeah.
That was day 2. So at that point, we were still thinking, oh, this is going to be what we want. We just haven't found it yet.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Now you said you haven't done a whole lot of archery deer hunting.
No.
You've done some rifle deer hunting.
Yeah, the archery deer hunt I've done over here is, it's ground combat essentially. It's thick as all get out and you're 20 yards, so you're not really putting the stalks on like you are there, where all of a sudden you have 160 yards without a tree in between you and the deer.
So were you surprised at how your heart rate got all jacked up? Stalking
I
in
knew
on
it
a
would.
buck?
I told these guys going down, I was like, I know what it's going to be like already. I mean, I can feel it. So it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. It was just I wanted to be able to maintain it once I was in that moment. And
Sure.
and that's kind of why we were joking on the way down. I opted to bring Jeff with me, even though he was filming. He's a little more calming than Eric. Eric would be just as excited right next to me.
Oh, come on.
Just send it.
Yeah, just send it. Exactly.
So, no, I was definitely amped for every one of them.
Yeah.
That first one really helped though, because we went slow, but we could have gone slower. But it was nice to see how slow you can go, and actually, even though we blew them out at 40 yards, I felt like we were being loud and going fast, and we were being quiet and going slow. So it was nice to get to that 40-yard mark. And I remember Jeff turning around and saying, "Hey, we got to within bow range, no doubt." And so that was nice, because it was probably both of our first stalks, even though he wasn't hunting. It was our first time dropping in on mule deer like that in that open setting. And so that was nice to see that we can at least check that off the list. We can get in bow range, and we're being quiet enough.
That had to feel good.
Yeah, that was definitely a confidence booster.
I mean, if you can get in bow range, some things, wind and all that, sometimes it's out of your control. It's that time of day where it switches or whatever, a storm comes in. But, that's probably a confidence builder right there.
That's
it
what
was.
Paul said too. Paul said, "You know what? I now have the confidence we can do this.
Yeah, I mean, every little crack under your foot feels like it's a grenade going off. But you just have to remember, with that being our first time, it's everything's loud.
Yeah.
And
So I heard you say, Jeff, that you guys got the stalkers.
We did.
Yeah.
We got Nawatney stalkers.
Yeah.
The Rimrock stalkers.
How'd those go for you?
You know, I've never. I guess I don't have a whole lot to compare it with, other than just like wool socks. But
Sure.
being able to slip them on, they're comfortable, they feel tight. I mean, we
It's
look
like
at
they
each
go
other.
over your pants and like kind of
Yeah,
keep
you can
everything
tuck your
sucked up.
pants in, and
Sure.
you can keep everything tight.
Especially in that terrain down there.
I think it was a game changer.
There's
for
not much
us.
down there that doesn't try to poke you.
Yeah.
And so
That was my question. Is there's a lot of cactus down there.
yeah.
Those ones that you don't see when you're stalking.
Yeah.
How did those treat those
We
rim rocks?
Never felt
we never
one.
stepped
Never
them.
got one.
I never
And
stepped
if
on
we
a
did,
cactus,
yeah, I don't know.
but goat heads, the little tiny guys, those you never felt those. Like I said, I never stepped on a visual big cactus, but I know I was stepping on a lot of stuff that wanted to poke me, but never felt a thing. So
That's perfect.
yeah, that was nice.
Cool. Yeah, I've said this before. I've looked at those stalkers. Those things look sweet. I mean, they tighten everything up, and I'm still running those old hippie 5 fingers with the
nice.
with the
Vibrams.
yeah, those
Yep.
little Vibrams, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many years I've had them, but they immediately went from just wearing them around the house to going in my pack for stocks.
I
And
think
then
the
a
only
wool
thing-
sock on top of that. And the only
Oh,
reason
that's
was
a good
because
idea.
I got the sissiest feet. I mean,
I'm right there
my
with you.
daughters run around in the driveway with rocks. I have no idea how they do it.
I'm
'Cause
right there with you. These
Dude,
guys, I got back to camp and these guys were watching me through the spotting scope and they're like, dude, I saw you kneel over a few times. What was going on? I was like, that was definitely a sharp rock.
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes I'll forget something out in my truck and I got to go out to the driveway. I used to risk it and it's like, oh, maybe I won't step on a rock. Now I don't even risk it, man. I'm putting shoes on. It's just
Rocks.
it kills me. I got the weakest feet ever. So I've gone to those with a big heavy wool sock and it keeps it pretty dang quiet and I don't have to worry about
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting
That's a good idea.
bent over from a sharp rock or a stick or a cactus.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want is a cactus in the bottom of my foot and it getting
Yeah.
infected on a long trip. So
I think Eric found a cactus on that trip.
I did. The night I was glassing up that 2-point, we were going up and around and felt something stab my leg and looked down. There was like 40 in my leg and it's like, I just kind of kept going. And we were glassing the bucks and this Kelpie was watching. I was kind of pulling them out and they stick in you good though.
yeah.
They were pretty good.
Yeah. Right on. So I'm curious, since you haven't done a whole lot of that, what were the biggest lessons you came away with on not just the entire trip, but I'm sure you learned a few things on those stocks that you were able to get in on those bucks.
Yeah, I think I probably learned more on stock number 2, honestly, than I did. The first time was just a confidence builder that, okay, we can get within bow range, and you don't have to be necessarily as quiet as you thought. But stock number 2 was day 7. Woke up in the morning, we were kind of camped right on the ridge. So we walked up to the top 40 yards and started glassing and spotted a beautiful 3-point, heavy 3-point. And at that point, we hadn't necessarily said, game on for any buck we see, but we all looked at this buck and said that's probably the second or third best buck we've seen. And I'm a character guy more than I am inches, and so the fact that he was just big and heavy, I was like, yeah, that's a buck that I see a lot of beauty in. So Jeff and I decided to drop in on that, and that was probably at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, it was between 8 and 9, I think.
Yeah, he bedded 150 yards just below our camp, really, in a pretty big, steep basin. But he bedded looking downhill against some sagebrush, so the sage was on his uphill side. And so we walked down the ridge a little
So
bit.
does that mean the thermals were still dropping in? Had he bedded?
The sun
looking
was
down?
up.
The sun was up at
We
that
had
point.
stuck over, and we waited until we knew our wind, we could tell, was going straight
Going
up to
back
us.
up, yeah.
I think we sat there for 15 minutes maybe and watched it kind of play back and forth before it made the steady switch to just coming uphill.
And it was open. So
Oh,
we were sitting there like, hey, if we can do this, this just proves a lot. And we're kind of hesitant at first because it's like, as soon as we go over the top of this, he's going to be able to see us. But where he had placed himself, it was like, okay, we should be able to maybe get within 100. It was our thinking. So we started dropping down, and we were like, all right, let's get to that bush, and then let's range him, let's glass, let's see if he's moved, let's see if he's alert or anything like that. So we'd move 5-10 yards, and we're going through a boulder field, so we'd go, and I'd be like, this rock's good, don't touch this rock. This rock's good.
We'd kind of tiptoe out, and you'd feel one shake, and you'd say, that's not the right rock. And so you'd shimmy your way through there. And I think we spent most of the time probably on our butt, probably sliding from rock to rock to rock. I'd hand him my bow, and he'd hand me his camera, and we just worked our way through there. But that was probably the toughest part there. But going back to that first stock, I just kept reminding myself that we can be a little bit louder than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Although at that point, it sounded like grenades were going off again.
Oh, yeah. We were within 100 yards pretty much of him the whole stock. But we had to work across and zigzag around to find the best spot. So once we got through the boulder field, we were in, some sage and some broken sticks that were there from God who knows when. And we'd look at it in front of us and we're like, that looks bad. Let's go back up and let's go around. So we'd
Looks
go back
bad
up.
as in noisy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'd go back up and we'd find a better path, and we'd get down. And I got to, I think it was around 80 yards. And I was like, I don't want to screw this stock up for Paul. I was like, I'll film right here. It's completely open. There's no way I'm not going to get it. So he's like, okay. So he starts going down by himself. And he gets into 42 yards. Probably took him the next 45 minutes to an hour to go 40 yards. And I'd watch him, and then he'd get,
yeah, I wanted to get to 60.
binos.
I wanted to get to 60, and I think I left Jeff right about 90, and so I got to 80, and I was like, all right, and then I would work into 76, and I'd stop and pick out my next line, and I'd work into 72, and every time I'd take 2 or 3 steps, I'd drop 2 or 3 yards on my bow, on my single pin, and I just kept working, and finally got to like 50.
Well, when he got to 60, he looked at me and he's like, I'm at 60. And I looked at him. I said, keep going, bud.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah, and so at that point, I was like, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm either going to get where I want to be, or I'm going to blow it. It's going to go one or two ways. And so I kept taking 2 or 3 steps at a time, and I finally stopped at, I think, 42 yards, 41. And I ran out of room at that point. Every good line I had was above me. And so when I got to that point, I was like, I could get closer. I don't necessarily need to be closer. I'm pretty comfortable right here. And I would have had to have made a lot more noise than I was comfortable with getting any closer than that. So I decided just to kind of hold up right there.
So we sat there for 45 minutes. And I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at every
no food,
rock,
no water.
every rock behind me, around me, and I'm like, I've seen guys do this before. So I'm looking at Paul, kind of trying to read his body language, and I could tell he's kind of like, it's going to be a really long day. So,
I was getting uncomfortable. I mean, it was so steep the way I was standing. It was just, you're uncomfortable after 5 minutes of standing in one spot. And,
Right.
it wasn't so much that we didn't have food, but we didn't even grab a drink of water that morning. And it's blowing, it's windy, it's hot. I'm already nervous, so I've already got cotton mouth as is.
Yeah, oh man.
Makes you want to cough, it makes you want to clear your throat, and so you're trying not to do that, which is making it worse because you're 40 yards from them. And so after 45 minutes or so, I remember looking up at Jeff, and I just held my hand up like this, and I was like, grab a rock and throw it. And he just lit up like a light. He was so excited because you could tell he'd been thinking the same thing for probably the last 15 minutes, but he didn't want to tell me.
Yeah.
And so we did that.
Yeah, go for it.
I grabbed the tiniest little rock. I'm like, I got to be careful,
Sure.
And I throw it like 100 yards away from him. And I throw my binos up, doesn't move. And I'm like, huh. Okay, so I grab a bigger rock and I throw it. Doesn't move. And I'm like looking at Paul, and he lets his bow down. I'm like, I don't know, dude. He's like, do it again. So I pick up a bigger rock and I throw it. And I throw it into the boulder field. So when it hits the boulder field, it's doo goo goo goo.
Right.
I see this buck's antlers move like 2 inches. And I'm like, there's no way. So I grab an even bigger one and I chuck it. And he kind of throws his head a little bit. And then I see him like lay down. Like I see his antlers just lay down.
At this point, I'm frustrated too because every time Jeff throws a rock, I'm drawn back. So that's probably, 7 rocks at this point, and I'm drawing back every time, and so instant adrenaline dump.
Right.
I go to
gotta
draw
be
back,
exhausting.
and I'm holding it for 15, 20 seconds after he throws, waiting for him to stand up, nothing, so I let down, look up at Jeff, and I'm like, my heart's beating like crazy every time you do that, dude. And so finally, I just held up both my hands, and I was like, get something big that might make too much noise at this
He's not a
point.
care in the world, man.
We rolled that thing down the hill, and it went 100 yards, and I could literally just see his top forks, and he just turned and looked, and he's like, wonder what that was, and then just turned back.
Geez, at this point, you got to be thinking, I could just walk down there and push my arrow into this
That's
buck.
what I was thinking. I was like, I could walk right up to him because whatever I'm going to do is way less quieter than these rocks.
So Paul ends up grabbing a rock, throwing it like 15 yards behind the deer. And it was like softball sized. Deer doesn't budge. And we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait 6 hours for this guy to move. So we're sitting there kind of dumbfounded. Probably another 10 minutes goes by.
Yeah, you threw 7 and I threw 3 rocks at least. And I was 40 yards from him and I was frustrated at that point. So I was like, I got nothing to lose. So I started throwing my own rocks. And, yeah.
But then Paul said he could feel the wind. It had been going right up his sleeves the whole time. He said all of a sudden it got warm. He felt the wind on his neck.
Yeah, I had a bino harness and a hat on and standing there baking in the sun for 45 minutes, making as much noise as we wanted at that point. I was like, well, I'm going to take some of this off. So I took my hat off, took my neck gaiter off, my bino harness off, and no later than 2 minutes after that, I felt the wind on the back of my head, and I was like, this isn't going to be good. And it probably switched for 5-6 seconds at the most, and mind you, we had perfect wind for almost 3 hours at this point.
Right.
And he didn't even stand up to give me any part of his day. I saw his antlers move pretty quick, a quick movement, and I drew back at that point, and right as I started drawing, he didn't even stand up. He almost rolled out of his bed straight downhill. Just blew out, got to 150 yards, and then stopped and looked back, and he had no idea that we were even there at that point. He never even knew we were there, and I thought to myself, don't you want to see what might be trying to eat you after throwing 10 rocks at him, you know?
Right.
Yeah,
Man.
He blew. I mean, he ran out of that basin. He blew the entire time.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
yeah.
There goes every
I mean, I knew we
deer.
stunk on day 7. I knew we stunk, but I
nostrils.
didn't think we stinked that bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of demoralizing. I got back to Paul. He probably sat there for 3 or 4 minutes just kind of
Watching him keep running.
What the heck?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it sounded like a perfect scenario when all he needed to do was stand up.
All he needed to do was stand up. And after drawing back 9 times, I think, every time we'd throw a rock.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, with adrenaline dumping each time, I was wore out after that point. I needed to sit for 5 minutes and just take everything.
It took us probably 15 minutes to hike 100 yards.
Yeah.
It was like baby step. We're like, I've got nothing in me right this second.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And Jeff's a mountain goat, so when I see Jeff going slow, I feel a lot better about myself. But watching him go up that hill, I knew, okay, he's feeling just as not as good as I am right now. I mean, we were going hand in hand, so that was kind of nice. But it took us a while to get back up out of there. That took some wind out of our sails. And I shouldn't say that because that was only our second stock, but I think we had high hopes for that after we'd got into 40 yards right there, and he didn't have a clue we were there with perfect wind. And it felt like it was going to be a chip shot at that point, but we were humbled pretty quick.
Yeah, I've seen you shoot. 40 yards is nothing for you. I got to shoot with you at the Northwest Mountain Challenge this year.
Yeah, that was a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
That was perfect for where we were.
Yeah.
To get used to that and get ready for that.
Yeah, that and living in Central Washington, we have Reds out there, the archery range at Reds, which is everything's either uphill or downhill. It's windy, it's dry, it's the desert, so that was a lot of confidence boosting right there too.
Yeah, I know you guys have done a lot of shooting and a lot of preparing, and we're completely ready for a style hunt like this.
Yeah.
So what came next? What was the next big stock? You guys said you had 4 stocks?
Yeah, 3. I think the next was our last morning. That was day 7. We went back knowing we had had that evening and the next morning.
I know this came down to the wire. You guys had a set amount of days.
Yep.
I think some of you guys had to be back to work. Was that day 8, 9?
That was the morning of day 8, and we actually extended that. I think I had 6 going down, and then I got service down there and called into work and was able to trade shift.
Right.
And so we knew we had 8 morning hunts, which would have left us 7 evening hunts. And so the morning of day 8,
Let's go back to the night of day 7.
Yeah, go for it.
So we got back.
Oh, that's right.
And everybody is I could just read everybody's face. They're like, it's over. It's over. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm cooking a mountain house. Screw you guys.
Yeah.
They're like, there's really good dinner, back in town.
I was like, what
I
time
wasn't
is
ready
it?
to go back, but Kelby was ready to go back a little bit, and he had to work the day after that.
did.
and Wife
You
was at
just-
home, and yeah.
People were like, that's going to be hard to beat. He's blowing the basin
Just a
out.
little bit demoralized after
Yeah, and I'm like,
what seemed like a perfect
Yeah.
opportunity.
yep. So we, it was probably a half hour of that, and it's like, dude, we're not leaving.
Yeah.
Like, we've got tomorrow. Let's stick it out, and everybody's like, okay, fine, let's do it. So then night 7, there was not a whole lot of movement in there.
I think there's a few more jokes about we could make it to the
A few
nearest
more
town.
jokes.
Felt like it was kind of blowing
We
out
could be
at
in
that
Boise
point.
by midnight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that was right about the time I got your text that said hold on to the 9th, and I was like, all right. I was like, we gotta stick this out.
Yeah.
So then woke up the next morning. I think we all kind of went up just right above camp, and there was not a deer in the whole basin. I mean, we didn't see a single deer moving. I hiked up to the top. I saw one buck, but he was 2 miles away. And I'm like, that's a lot of cliffs to be going and navigating around. I was like, that's going to take us 4 hours to get there. So I came back down, and I'm like, what'd you guys see? And I see Paul running up to the ridge. And I'm like, he's got to have something, right? He was going back up. He had looked up at me, saw me coming. He's like, I better give it one more look. So he goes
I
up.
felt bad. I was like, Jeff's out there hiking around looking
Yeah.
for a buck for me. There was many times during that hunt that you would have never have guessed these guys didn't have a tag in their pocket
Right.
because they were putting in as much work as me, if not more. I mean, Jeff took every step that I did. He probably took more, going, oh, I'm going to go to the top of this real quick and glass this for you. And so I felt guilty right away. I saw him coming down off the ridge, and we're burnt out at this point. Morning of day 8, it's been hot every day. We got blisters on our feet. We've all fallen. We're tired. Our pack's been heavy, and it's not complaining. It's just everything that we wanted it to be, but it wears on you for our first big backcountry
Yeah.
8-day extravaganza. And so I saw him meandering his way off the hill, and I was like, I can't sit here and keep packing up my tent. I was like, I got to spend my time looking. If he's looking, I should be looking. So our bags were packed, actually. Jeff got back I saw him coming off the ridge, and
Yeah.
I was kind of mad.
We took his tent down.
We took
Yeah.
his tent down. All of our tents went in our backpacks. My bow was strapped to my backpack, and I was packing up some of his stuff. And when I saw him coming down, like I said, I was like, I got to look over the ridge. I just got to check one more time. And that's when we spotted there's 3 deer over there?
4.
4?
4 deer.
4 deer and 9 or 10 horses, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were kind of all intermixed with each other, really. It was the first time we'd seen the deer hanging out
With the horses.
with the horses,
Mhm.
yeah. And what really caught my eye is I glassed over there, and I couldn't make out what they were because they were quite a ways away. But one of them was a real weird color. It was like a charcoal black color almost. And so I actually yelled back at Eric, and I said, hey, grab the spotting scope just because I want to get a good look at this deer's color. It's kind of cool. And so Eric walked up with the scope, and that's who Jeff actually saw running up the ridge. We put the scope on it, and we're like, oh, yeah, it's a little fork and horn buck, and it's got some good, cool color. And we were just sitting there kind of looking at that. And that's when Jeff walked back into camp, and he goes, oh, let me look. And he goes, oh, dude, that's a buck. And I was like, yeah, we saw that. And he's like,
yeah.
we're going. And I was like, I'm not going to say no, obviously. I was
Sure.
like, yeah, you want to? He's like, I think we can do this. And at that point, we kind of talked about what the wind was doing, and there's 10 horses over there with the deer, and we didn't really know. We got to within about 120 yards of the horses a couple times, and they never ran, but they definitely didn't like us being there. And so that crossed our mind is how are we going to get close to them with that many horses? And at that point, Jeff's like, oh, we'll figure it out when we get there, I guess. And so I went and unstrapped my bow and kind of started from there.
I think we grabbed water, camera, bow, and went.
Yeah, a rangefinder.
And at that point, it was like, hey, we don't have to do a 3-hour stalk.
We had nothing to lose. Like I said, mentally, we were, maybe Jeff wasn't, but mentally us 3 were pretty well not checked out.
You were
And,
cooked.
We were cooked, and we thought the mountain had won, and we didn't have a problem with that. I mean, we gave it a lot of what we had, and I wasn't going home hurt with our, I was thinking, okay, the mountain won fair and square. I mean, I put my stocks on, I put my time in, and it beat us, but we're learning, and
Sure.
we gained a lot from this. And so to go on that stock that time at that point after mentally we'd kind of checked out was like, well, we got nothing to lose. Let's
Probably
roll.
a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you'd already kind of given it up. Like,
Yeah.
well, the mountain won.
Yeah, exactly.
So
It was kind of a
more
kamikaze
relaxed.
stock to start too, because we were like, do we hike around and waste another 30 minutes going over the top, or do we just kind of run the face in the shade here? And we're like, they're 800 yards. Let's just go for it. It's not if it was 180, every precaution would have been taken.
yeah.
But little fork and horn, so we were like, let's just blow through this.
We were running through
We'll
shale.
get on the other side once we get there. So we cruised through the shell, and I'm glassing the whole time, and I'm like, I never saw them pick their head up. They said
didn't know.
they did a couple times.
A couple little times, but it wasn't like, oh, what the heck said? It was just kind of,
There's not two Clydesdales running across the side of the hill.
Exactly.
That's what it sounded
Exactly.
like.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we were just, hey, they don't care about us right now. Let's just go past them, get on the other side of the saddle there, and we'll sneak down on them. And that's what we did. We got to a spot. We couldn't see them. We knew they were right below us. They had fed closer to us, which was nice, away from the horses.
They were in that same kind of terrain like the first stock was, where every 40, 50 yards you'd be able to see an extra 40, 50 yards. But beyond that, it was so steep it would drop off. And so you kind of just had to work the hill in increments. And
just a bunch of sage, just open sage.
Yeah.
And we kind of knew where they were. And I think we got to a point where Paul's like, I'm too scared to stand up. Let's just.
It's like if I stand up, they're going to pinpoint me because I can see the top of their ears, and we're on a bald face ridge, and I was like, if I stand up, they're gonna pinpoint me, and I was like, we're pretty much stuck here unless they keep working their way up to us.
So we made the decision. Paul said, let me know when you're ready to stand up. And I looked at him and said, I'm ready.
Yeah, at that point, I was like, I got nothing to lose. What was he, 60-something yards at that point?
Yep.
Yeah, and
So I had the rangefinder.
I thought Jeff was going to buy me an extra 2 minutes before I had to shoot and make a decision because he was going to
Actually,
be fiddling with the camera, but that wasn't the case.
he said, he goes, I'm just going to give them like 10 minutes to see if they'll feed up here. And I look at him, I go, they're not coming, dude. I go, it's now or they're going to end up working their way away. So he's like, all right, just let me know when you're ready to stand up. And I go, let's go. So he drew, I stood up, ranged him, threw the camera on real quick, and Paul put a good shot and watched the deer do a front flip, took off. He actually broke both front shoulders.
no kidding.
Yeah, He was kind of, arms were back a little bit. I think he got bottom of the heart. His deer went 20 yards, laid down, and was done.
Yeah. It was
It's an awesome shot.
it was a,
So you were back watching this whole thing, Eric?
Oh, yeah. Me and Kelby
gotta
were
tell
up on
them
the
that
ridge. Oh, man. It was just crazy watching it because
they thought I was a lot farther away than I was.
It looked
really.
like they were a long ways away. And we're like, oh, those deer are gone. And I'm watching this deer.
Before this, not to interrupt, but to talk about how we were kind of mentally checked out. Like I said, there was about 10 horses there, and they're kind of whinnying and neighing, that noise they make. And these two
Well,
knuckleheads...
Kelby, I have bad hearing, so I talk louder. I'm probably really loud right now. I talk louder.
I've
than I
turned you
think I
down a
am.
little bit.
I appreciate that, yeah. But, yeah, my bad hearing and Kelby, same deal.
We're 700 yards from them at this point, but
Yeah.
they don't realize we can hear them because they're on top of this ridge.
We can hear their conversation.
We're
on
just
top
talking.
of a rock with two
and they can
skylines
hear
up there.
supposedly,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
And
But what
we
we
were way
could hear,
above
which
them.
they didn't realize, is these horses that are whinnying and neighing, they're so checked out that we actually could hear them singing, "Watch me whip, watch me neigh," imitating these horses. And me and Jeff were looking at them
Forgot
like,
about
we're
that.
going to kill you guys. Like, do you not realize? And I'd see them look at me through the binos, and I'd, put my finger up to my mouth, like, be quiet. And they're just having a great time up there, talking about the steak they're going to get when we get back to town. And so that was going on. But yeah, that's about the point when I looked at Jeff and I said, I have a feeling we don't have much time. I was like, we gotta make this go. So we stood up and made the shot, and yeah, broke both shoulders, and he didn't go far. And that's when
yeah, well, me and Kelby were up there, and I think I was watching Paul, and then I looked at the deer, and I was like, oh, they're busting out. And the buck was the last one. They were kind of bedded underneath the tree. They stood up, and Kelby's like, oh, his rat got caught on the tree or something. And then I'm watching this deer through my 15s, and I see him do a front flip. I'm like, oh, and then he stands up real quick, and there's just blood pouring out of him. I'm like, dude, that had been like a 150-yard shot. And then it ended up not being that, but just our viewpoint, it looked like it was really far. And,
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was just, and I've seen Paul shoot. He's a great shot. So that's right in his.
And it was funny. It was so steep, and when I hit him, he spun so quick and front flipped. He actually front flipped behind one of the only trees on the whole hill.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't see him. And at that point, Jeff and I we heard it hit, and I knew it. I saw it hit him, and I knew I put a decent hit on him, but I didn't know where it was at. But it was those guys' reaction that I could tell. Okay, I don't need to knock another arrow and run down the hill. Like he's done. And at that point, it was just a lot of hooting and hollering. I think these guys probably kept singing up on that hill. And Jeff and I shared some hugs.
We were fired up, man. It was awesome.
Had some allergies kick in. The eyes were watering, and it was amazing to already be in the mindset that you're going home kind of defeated.
Right.
And then to have that happen is something that, I mean, I don't know if I'll ever get the pleasure of that again. But
no kidding.
I think you should probably kind of share what we dedicated the hunt for too.
Yeah, when I drew that tag, my dad had passed away 7 months ago. He passed away back in January. I remember sitting in Mod Pizza. I drew that tag, and these guys were like, "Dude, this hunt's for your dad. Let's do it." And so we were all for that, and we were kind of had the mindset there. And there was a few things that happened where Jeff's like, "Dude, he's like, it's like you're looking out at your dad right now," and it was awesome. It felt so good to be there, and to be where he wanted us to be, and we're hunting how he always wanted us to hunt. And we kind of put everything together that he'd worked with me on for so many years that he would wanted to have seen us accomplish.
Yeah.
And I spent quite a few years making fun of some of the bucks that he took when he was, probably my age. Some of the bucks he shot back in the 80s and early 90s that were little fork and horns and stuff like that. They'd be hanging in the garage, and I'd be like, "Dad, did that buck still have spots? Or, and, did it have a milk mustache?" And he'd threaten me in some sort of fatherly way.
Sure.
And it didn't even hit me until probably 20 minutes after what happened. I looked down and I said, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "That's the buck that I've made fun of my dad for the last 26 years."
Right.
And I was like, "Well, he obviously got the last laugh on that one." And
Definitely.
At that point,
perfect.
I wouldn't trade that buck for the world. That's when it set in that, he may only be 26 inches. He's a small fork and horn, but at that point, it was monumental to me. It was. We always say that, it's not a trophy buck, but it's definitely a trophy moment. Well, that was exactly what that was. I think for all of us. I mean, the expression that I saw in these guys and Eric and Kilby, like I said, they worked just as hard as I did.
Right.
They did everything except for make the shot. But it was I don't want to say deserved. We didn't necessarily deserve it, but we earned it.
Sure.
And so that felt awesome. It was probably the hardest hunt that any of us have been on.
Yeah.
Physically, because of how steep it was, how much weight we were carrying, just the conditions, and mentally by far, to be, like I said, checked out, going home.
No kidding.
It was
man,
unreal.
that's incredible how that worked out with your dad after dedicating the hunt like that to him, and then sure enough, getting a forky.
And like I said, it was a full circle going down, thinking, Jeff, literally Jeff's exact words were, "We should probably put some stocks on some 150s just for practice." And
Sure.
Yeah, dude, totally, that makes sense. And then to come out the way we did, it was by far the most humbling hunt ever.
Wow,
but
so
I
perfect.
don't think that anything better could have happened to us at our point in our hunting career. That's probably exactly what we needed.
Oh man, yeah, for sure. I love hearing stories where it comes down to the very end.
Yeah.
For maybe inexperienced or just younger guys that are just getting into bow hunting, it comes down to that so dang many times, and it's like, I don't know what it is, but you work, and then, like I've mentioned 1,000 times, is the bottom of the ninth thing is it just happens that way. And it's almost like you do deserve it. You earned it, and then you deserved it. And that's what it came down to.
Yeah, and I think that I think that text meant a lot more than you probably realize. But us growing up playing sports, you can win a ball game in the bottom of the ninth. And I think a lot of us, you can look at hunting the same way. And so that was definitely a walk-off home run in my book.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember texting you guys that, and it just, man, I was really, really rooting for you guys and hoping you guys would pull it off there at the end, because I know it was a long hunt. You guys spent so much time and effort up there working on that, and finally to get it to pay off at the bottom. I mean, literally the last minute of the hunt.
The last minute. I mean, they had to Eric and Kilby actually had to unpack my bag to bring it down to me to
pack out meat.
And it was it was humbling, and it was by far the best hunt that probably any of us have ever been on. And just from my point, I mean, taking these guys with me and dragging them down there, they've got full schedules, they've got girlfriends and kids and you name it, and to bring those guys down there and go through what we went through and come home empty-handed as we thought we were going to was I don't want to say demoralizing, but it weighs on you a little bit, you feel it. And so to come out of there with, not necessarily a big buck, but a buck with some meat in the back,
right?
It made it all worth it. It was.
Man.
I wasn't ready to accept that we were going empty.
Sure.
There's
That's,
no way.
He wasn't. I mean, I literally told Jeff once we got down there, we were hugging and talking, and I was like, dude, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, I would not have shot this deer if it wasn't for you.
Right.
And I could tell he felt that because, like I said, I was looking at the deer because I thought he had a cool coat.
yeah.
And he walked up and he's like, let's roll.
There's
and
some
I was
antler
like,
on the top
yeah,
of that.
exactly. Yeah, and so, no, it was awesome.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, just that's a testament to good friendship you guys all have together because, the time investment on a hunt like that when, these other three guys don't have a tag in their pocket, but they're going along just to help you.
Yeah.
That's something special. And that's not, a lot of guys would not do that.
I tell these
for
guys
sure.
often, I think there's a lot of people out there that couldn't buy what we have as far as how well we get along and how well our personalities mix when it comes to hunting. And
Right.
we're pretty selfless. I mean, there's been times where we're literally saying, no, you shoot it. No, you shoot it. No, I'll shoot. No, you couldn't buy what we have. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
A lot of people spend their life
You can
looking
tell me
for
that
it.
as much as you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's a pretty good dynamic, especially we're early in the season here, and you guys will probably have quite a few hunts coming up, and be interesting to see how the rest of your season goes. But man, it gets me excited just hearing that because you guys now have that confidence going into all these other hunts where, I mean, face it, we all have struggles. We have hunts that go way harder than we thought it would.
Yeah.
Where expectations in the beginning are always super high and then they just kind of slowly fade. Mm-hmm. But then to pull it out in the bottom of the hunt like that, just at the very end, I mean, now you just know it can be done. It can happen at any point. It could happen all the way down at the end. And that's just such a huge confidence builder for guys.
Yeah.
I love it.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's perfect.
It was way better than shooting the buck on the first stalk.
Yeah.
Even though that was the biggest buck we saw.
Think of all the lessons you guys learned compared to
Invaluable.
shooting that buck on the first day.
Yeah, not only, like I said, not only because I relate that to so much of my dad and what we kind of dedicated this hunt to, but just what we learned and what we went through together. Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't put a value on it. You couldn't put a price tag on it. It's going to propel us farther forward, and it humbled us the way we needed to be humbled, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, that's perfect.
And we were hungry before this, and I think now our appetite's even bigger. So. And
it gains a huge respect, right? I mean, I think a lot of folks, you pull a Nevada tag. Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to be a gimme.
Yeah.
It's going to be easy.
Well, that's what you think.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's a lot of bucks down there.
Watch guys like you go out here. Yeah. Oh, here's a 200-incher. Here's a 200-incher.
Well, it's just like there's no easy hunt out there, and archery will humble you every time.
We quickly realized that, like, day 2, we're like, oh, dude, it's a hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think about it on paper, you're like, Nevada, big bucks, lots of them.
August, early archery,
Velvet.
They're out in the open.
This is going to be a cakewalk. We're coming home with a deer. And then day 8 rolls around, you're like, gosh, dang.
Yeah.
We suck.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not that. It's just conditions and terrain and so many things can happen and humble you. But,
Yeah, there was a lot of ups and downs. There was a lot of, not so much we suck, but, this is a lot harder than we thought. And we knew you were, 6 ridges over as a crow flies, glassing something up that's probably monumental. And so, not going to lie,
I was not that far away.
That weighed on us all too. We're sitting here grinding away and we're like, oh, this is little fork and horn. I was like, what do you think Lampers is looking at right now?
Well,
one of the nights, apparently, you snuck into camp.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah?
How did we miss this? Yeah, Eric,
I think that was on that ridge. Christina.
Yeah. Yep.
That's probably why there was no deer that morning we woke up.
Yep. So
probably.
We all go to bed, and I can hear, hey, get him. They're underneath me. Get him out of here. And I'm just like trying to piece everything together. I'm like, all right, I know he's sleep talking because he does this a lot.
I do, yeah, I sleep talking.
So we're sitting there, and I hear
so
Paul
this is
say
Eric
something to him. He's like,
"This is Eric." Yeah.
What are you talking about, Eric?
I'm in the tent with Eric, but Eric and I have spent many nights together, and he doesn't sleep talk a lot unless he's on like a mountain. And so, with as much time as we have tented together on the side of a hill somewhere, I'm fully aware of he's going to tell me something in the middle of the night.
So Paul starts laughing at him, and he goes, why are you laughing at me? It's not funny.
As I'm sleeping.
No, he actually said, he made it even better, why are you giggling? Why are you giggling right now? This isn't funny.
So apparently, Ryan Lampers snuck into camp and put bees under it.
So yeah, I thought that there was a hole in the tent, and there were bees coming in. I don't know how I vividly remember this, but I remember kind of being half awake, half asleep, and this is just our schedule, like at work, that makes me do this. But I remember like putting my hand against this, thinking bees were flying in and stuff, and swatting the side of the tent. And I think it's because when we shot at the mountain challenge, we were talking about bees and how you're definitely allergic to it. And I don't know, when I was sleeping, we were hunting the same mountain range. I hate bees.
I wasn't that far away. Yeah.
And, oh my gosh, it was the weirdest thing. And then
it wasn't the only night he slept, Doc. Either.
No, it was just the funniest by far, because with you being allergic to bees, of all people to put them under the tent, you did it. And how mad he was at me for not caring, because I'm just laying there sleeping next to him laughing. Jeff's laughing at me because he knows I'm just tucked into my sleeping bag getting a kick out of this whole thing. And Eric's trying to plug the hole in the tent with all the bees coming in and hit me at the same time to wake me up because I'm not caring.
Oh, yeah, it was bad, man. It was
and
bad.
And Kelby's tucked into his puffy with his hearing aids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the next morning when you wake up, you let Eric know what happened, and none of that happened.
Yeah, for sure.
We're crazy, and
That's hilarious.
I think that's the morning he woke up and said, "Why am I sleeping like sideways in this tent?" And I was like, "Well, you were doing a little beekeeping last night."
Oh man,
that's crazy.
it's terrible.
No kidding. Wow.
Lots of laughs up there for sure.
Yeah, sounds like
I
it.
wouldn't trade it for. It's
Well, that's perfect, man. What a great hunt you guys had. I'm so glad to hear it panned out and happened the way it did. I mean, you guys got to be ecstatic about that. So, cool, guys. Well, man, that was pretty interesting. Hopefully, a lot of guys get something out of this story and get to hear it.
At least maybe some laughs.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I hadn't heard about that dream yet. This is the first time. Oh, well, that's good. Well, cool. Is there anything you guys want to wrap it up with as far as this trip?
I think what we got most out of it was how humbled we are, and how tough that mountain really is. We knew going in it was going to be hard, and like I said, we had 8-9 days of food and 160 ounces of water, and we quickly learned that probably wasn't the right choice.
Right.
I think my biggest thing I'd like to say is hunt how you talk about the hunt before you get there.
Yep.
And not necessarily the spots. You might need to switch spots, but if you talk about a hunt and you're like, hey, we want to hunt the top of the ridge, we want to hunt high country, 3 miles from the road, away from people. Mm-hmm. And when you get there, it's too hard and you give up and you're like, oh, we could settle for here.
We could settle for that wounded 4-point in that alpha film.
Yeah.
Alpha
Right.
I think
right.
There's plenty of people out there like us that are new, that are trying to do it, trying to get into it. Hunt how you want to hunt.
Yeah.
And don't give up on that.
Yeah, and I think you had messaged me that. You guys didn't want to go drop down and chase all those,
No.
I think you said he saw 100 deer or something down in the bottoms, but you guys wanted a classic high country style mule deer hunt, and that's what you got.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we got. We there was talk about, that 4-point down there that was wounded. I think as conservationists, we all didn't like seeing that. That all kind of sat in our stomach wrong, but we wanted the hunt that we'd picked out, and we at that point, we were hunting where we were for the hunt that we wanted.
For sure.
Rather the outcome. I mean, I think we were all totally okay with tucking our tails and swallowing our pride coming off that mountain saying we didn't shoot a buck, but we had the exact hunt that we wanted.
Yeah.
And to take a buck and have the hunt we wanted, even though he was no trophy as far as inches goes, it couldn't have gone any better.
Sure. Perfect. Well, man, thanks for sharing that story. This is pretty cool. Sit down. Actually, I hadn't even heard it. I heard little bits and pieces and got to see the photos.
A lot of people will say, "Oh, you shoot a buck," and I'll say, "Yeah," and they'll ask for a picture, and I'll send it, and I just let the picture go and let them see it, and the story's too long to explain. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to get this out at least, so people kind of know the backstory of it.
And will there be a video? I guess that's the big question.
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing
There won't
that.
be as many deer on it as we thought there would be. But
or as many stocks.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It'll be good though.
It's tough to
Awesome
video deer
story.
from a mile away.
Yeah.
But there's definitely going to be a video.
Yeah, there's some video, there's some good pictures, and there's a deer at the end, so that's cool.
Awesome.
We're not coming home with just sunset shots, although they were gorgeous.
No kidding, right? Oh, it's amazing up there when you're on top. You get to see it all.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, I appreciate this. Thanks a lot, and we'll go with that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Hey, folks. Thanks for listening to the Hunt Harvest Health podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Visit our website at huntharvesthealth.com for more podcast stories and recipes. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hunt Harvest Health. You can also message me at StHealthy Hunter, that's STH, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Also tag your photos Hunt Harvest Health or Get StHealthy, as we enjoy seeing what you guys are doing as well.